welcome to the NLB Pick 6 Spinoff Edition Smart Guy version of our podcast. Just a little background, just in case you don't know. Our league, the NLBSmartGUYS, basically does a podcast that kind of gives you some inside breakdowns on the league. A couple robbers we have in there with a different aspect of it. Selection, development, team development. What the Smart Guy cast is going to do is kind of give you some strategies as applied to some real world principles to kind of bring about maybe different modes of thinking and different ways to go about, making that dream team or making the right selection for you. I'm joined by the Deacon, Young Dude Dirty 75052. He is the resident smart guy in my eyes because, that's my homie. We really wanted to try to take a different look at the situation and kind of, maybe give a different perspective. So what's up with you today, D?
Doing good, my brother. How are you?
Right, great. So the reason I picked you is because I knew you would be able to kind of stick with where I kind of wanted to go.
Right.
Be able to kind of make the right, choices and selections and whatnot. So what we're going to get into is basically kind of defining the way our league is set up. So we have guys who are league, we have guys who state they are, bums, and you got guys in the middle. Well, I thought we should tie this to real world, to an actual demographic graph to kind of show how those kind of classes line up with each other. So with that being said, I found a little visual, most current data I could find. And I came up, with our top-heavy chart, or should I say our kind of medium chart. Now, the middle class will always be the largest. Now, it's shrinking, but the middle class is always going to be the largest. The upper class is always going to be the smallest portion. Of course, the lower class is going to be somewhere in the middle, depending on how the economy falls. So with our league, if we were to break that down, we would see that the upper class, per se, would give us about a solid 6 top players. So the top 6 would be our league guys. So when we talk about our league guys, we talk about, we talk about Reed, we talk about Carlos, we talk about Carmen, we talk about Taekwon, matter of fact, we talk about those. But what escapes us is the fact that,
right.
Now keep in mind that this is strictly a short-term, short sample when we look at the current list of players we have. And there's some anomalies, that aren't included in this, which we'll use to kind of, verify and justify where we're going with it. But there's a lot of talk about this being a what have you done for me lately league. And then there's talk about historical data. And I like to take the historical data approach because, in my mind, historical data shows patterns and it gives you a better, insight to what's happening. But Cliff is number 6. So by the percentages and the way things work, Cliff is elite in the upper tier of our class. Or should I say he's in the upper tier because he's that number 6 spot. Now, there's an argument to say that whether just because you're in the top class it makes you elite or not. But for all intents and purposes, Cliff is in the upper tier of the players in this league based on this last set of historical data. If we go by longevity and we go about what have you done for me lately in this league, and that's not emotional. That's just what it is.
Yeah, the problem is that I think, again, if we remove the emotion from it and look at the facts, Cliff would be number 6. So by that theory, he would technically be elite. Now, the issue is emotionally, they're going to say, well, Cliff lost to me or he lost to me. But if you look at his record, let's take a look at who he beat. Cliff has beat he's beat Cal, right? Cal would be considered elite, I guess. He has beat Taekwon, which I guess he's on the borderline of elite. And he has a winning record against Manoj. But the problem with Cliff is that he doesn't have a winning record against Reed, Los. Well, he's 1-1 with Los, and he does not have a winning record against Nav, which I guess would be your upper elites. And he has 1 loss against Carmen. So it's kind of hard, small sample size.
It is a small sample size, and I think a lot goes to the fact that in order to truly be elite, I think the people who we don't really question whether they're the best in our league actually have to worry about playing you, like on the level of actually worrying about playing you.
Right.
So, that I can't answer that. You can answer that because we're not top 6. But, if those guys worry about playing Cliff, then that might lend to him being elite. It might not,
Nah. Now, the issue is if we have – are those 5 people above him elite? Right? So, everybody – Reed has been number 1 for 2 releases in a row. Does that mean he's elite? I mean, at one point, Reed was a bomb. True. But now he's pretty much been classified as elite, right?
That's the historical preference I go with.
Well, not historically, because at one point he was a bomb. So what are we saying? Like the last 3 releases, last 4 releases?
3 or 4 releases would be a good indicator because it gives you a baseline. It also gives you something to work with as far as a bad year, a good year, and the kind of in between year. So it's a good indicator. But like I said, he continues to dominate most of the time. So I mean, there's no real question that he's decent. So I mean, I think we can move on from that
Okay.
point.
Okay. So Los has been an upper tier player, right? He's like the second guy. Uh, and Los wins a whole lot of games. He doesn't win a lot of rings. He's always close, but I think he really has like one ring in the last two releases, right? Maybe three in the last four releases. I don't know how many he has. Then we got Cal, who's right below him, which Cal has. He's the GM, or he's the guy that runs our league. But ultimately, he ends at number three, and he won his first ring in season 8, right? Which people are saying is meaningless, but at the end of the day, it's a ring. But then we have a newcomer. We have Taquan. So does that mean that Taquan is really elite, or is this release, to your theory, is that release meaning that he doesn't have enough of a record, or what does that mean?
I mean, I really feel like it means that we don't know. Because we take this one release, and like I said, you can't base somebody's ability
Right.
based on one release, one game. It takes a couple of releases with different
Right.
styles of the way Madden puts the game out to see if they can really adapt and be
Okay.
one of those upper
Okay.
echelon, upper tier players that we can consider elite.
Let's see. You versus Taquan. Let's see. You are. Wait a minute. You're 1-0 versus Taquan?
So I'm not that good, right?
I don't
I
know.
mean,
I don't know.
that should be an indication of whether he's great or not. But again, it's a small sample size. But hey, I'm gonna take it for what it is. You know what I mean?
Right, but he finished at number 4. So is this the right way? Or actually, I'm sorry, I said 1-0. You're 1-1. So you guys are equal.
I'm okay with being equal. I don't have a problem with that.
So y'all are equal. Does that mean that you're on the same footing as him?
It truly means nothing. It means that I beat him one time in the game, and there's no historical thing that says I'm better.
Okay. Okay. But again, it's such a small sample size, right? It's only 2 games. It's only one Madden. So who's to say he's going to be this good in Madden 18?
And that's the majority of my points. We get so caught up in the here and now that we don't see
Okay.
along.
Well, then let's talk about Carm. Carm is number 5, right? Uh, Carm, what did you call him? You gave him the moniker of what?
King Carmen.
Okay, and you gave him that because he earned it, right? How many rings does this guy have?
Shit, every last goddamn one apparently.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and he's won at least one or two, I think, every release, right? So if you think about it, his record is a little bit bigger sample size. I mean, he has a winning record against Reed. He has a winning record against Lowe's. He has a winning record against Cal. Winning record against Taquan. Winning record against Cliff. Winning record against Benoge. The only person he has a losing record against is Nav. Um, and so it could be argued that he's probably the best of the elite facing the elite.
And I'm inclined to agree with that.
But he's the 5th best player. Now, I don't know if that's because he left early or what. But when you also,
It could be the fact that he had bums in his division where he couldn't really generate the points needed to be there.
it could be. It could be. But, who did he have in his division? He had like Derek in his division, I think.
Derek Payne and yours truly.
Okay. So then, yeah. So you guys may not have had enough wins collectively to get him the points that he needs to be ranked higher.
So truthfully, we let Carmen down.
You let him down. You let him down. But let me ask you a question though. But before you go any further, but given his record against the other elites, he seems to have the best record among the elites. Does that mean he's the best elite?
I mean, if we go by numbers of wins, we go by numbers of rings over the course of the last couple of releases. We go by the data.
Okay.
The data only. Carmen has to theoretically be the best player in our league. Even though Armani had the long winning streak and he won a bunch of rings, over the course of this release, and in the course of the last release, and in the course of the last release before that, he's historically the best. A guy came in with his team that he built and won off GP. And I think that definitely makes him a strong number 2 if you want to put Reed first.
Nah, it can't be, right? And I mean, Reed goes to the bowl a lot, or he went a lot this release. He went 6 times, but he only won 1. So by the time you get to a bowl, you're playing someone else that's on your level. So the fact that you got there, you did play probably some tough competition at some point. But if you get to the bowl and you only do 1 out of 5, does that mean that you're really that good? Or is it You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, it means you can win games and you can find, what you need to do to win games. But when somebody matches your skill level, when it's not somebody who beat up on, when it's
Right.
somebody who matches your skill level, then there's a point where it might be a little rough for him to put things together. Like I said,
Yeah.
it's been said that maybe he gets bored playing. He just kind of does the
Okay.
same thing to the same people all the time because it's easy to do. But when it comes down to nitty gritty, like when we look at, when it
Yeah.
gets to the Super Bowl or the championship,
Yeah.
sometimes Reed does have problems matching skill with people who are
Yeah. He
necessarily
did.
on a higher
He
level.
did.
I mean, we can always say Armani
Yeah.
is probably better than Reed too, because I mean, the
Yeah.
man had a 60, 70 game winning streak, and that can't be knocked at all.
Yeah. Yeah. He did 60. I think 64 games, something like that.
So, for all intents and purposes, based on the data I have, I'm willing to say that Armani, Carmen, and Nav, to me, are pretty much the elite group. Those are the three guys who I would consider elite in this league, and those three only.
That's a valid argument. I mean, by looking at the facts, it's a valid argument because if you think about it, the people that we have above them, we just discussed Reed, right? And then we talk about Los, and Los only has one ring and two releases. So again, we might have that same problem. Los is one that got to the bowl a lot, but he could never get there. You can call it choking, you can call it whatever, but when you're playing against people at your skill level, you're not able to bring it across the finish line. And then Cal is just kind of elevated to that with this release. So we can't really give him that. Jaquan is too new. We already started off this discussion talking about Cliff is a bubble guy anyway. So really, that kind of leaves you with those three, right?
Yeah. I mean, and let me finish out my chart so I can kind of, say our top six of the upper class, the middle class, which would be numbers 7 through 24,
Right.
would be our middle class, and then our lower tier guys would be everybody 24, and then all the way down to
Okay.
32, of course. And then again, not all those people in the lower class, we can't really call all of them bums either. It all depends, because there's only a few true bums really that have ever been in this league.
Right.
And there's only a very few true elite, because elite is a term. It means elite.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean everybody that's good. Now, we look at the bottom part. Like I don't really see anybody on there that's in any kind of jeopardy
Yep.
of not being in the
Right.
league anymore based on the new cutoffs and
Right.
stuff. I don't see it. I see guys who play for
Right.
fun, guys that are good to have around, guys that make the league what they are. But are those bottom five, guys? And if you want to conclude the six, because I'm 27, so I'll be in the bottom six. I don't really see any of these guys in any kind of jeopardy per se of not being around after this release, unless they just terrible.
Well, let's think about it for a second, right? Because if we go with it, some of these guys still win. You think about let me see. Let's take Tig, for example. Let's look at Tig. Now, Tig has dominated some people, right? Like, I think this last release, he beat Earl 12 times.
Jesus.
I mean, 12 out of 16 times.
That's like 75%, bruh.
12 out of 16 times. That's pretty dominant, Chef, yeah. I mean, that is 75%, Chef didn't necessarily dominate anybody like that, but he beat the people he was supposed to. He beat Damon, he beat Payne, he beat Alton when he got in there, he beat Tim. He even got a couple wins against some other people. He got a win against Pat, got a win against...
He beat Cal twice.
Yeah, he beat Cal twice. He actually beat Jordan a couple times. He beat Taquan a couple times. So Chef, I mean, when you talk about these guys that are bums, they're getting some wins, and they're getting some surprising wins in some cases. And you could say, oh, it's an anomaly, or maybe it's a situation where there's somebody took their eye on a ball, it was late in the release, whatever it may be. At the end of the day, they're still getting these wins. Now, you got the people, I think, that are more on the bubble, like a Fats and a Payne, who aren't really winning the games they're even supposed to win. But I don't know. I don't even know if there's games they're supposed to win. Not being funny, but when you're at that bottom, are you really supposed to win any game? Because Payne, on the flip side, Payne dominated Derek this release.
Which goes back to us disappointing Carmen.
So when you start thinking about it, it might be more of a matchup issue, right?
And you bring up a very valid point. Because, see, a bum is one thing. Like, a truly bummy bum is a dude who can't beat nobody ever. But a lot of the times in this league, you play folks enough, people have matchup issues. You know what I mean? And so it's not necessarily you can't play. It's just sometimes you can't play against a certain person. You know, like Kyle has said in a couple of other podcasts, you know,
Yeah.
he don't worry about Chef, but Chef
Yeah.
kind of give him a little trouble sometimes because of what he does, the way he plays. So in this way, matchups should be more important to people in this league and finding the right matchup so no 0-16 occurs.
Who would go on 16?
Payne done did a 0-16 charge a couple times, Chef did too. But Payne, like when you
Okay.
like Payne is the most realistic one that had the chance to go 0-16.
Yeah.
He been on the edge a couple times. I think Fast was maybe once or twice, but I don't
Yeah.
think he just really cared that much at that point.
Block would definitely go on
I
16.
mean, the points are kind of taking away the pure like super bum people.
Yeah.
So like, I don't think Payne and Fats, either one, especially Payne, I don't think they're in any jeopardy of going 0-16. So it's just a matter of trying to win some of these games they should win.
I think so because I still think there's going to be matchups he's going to win.
Right. I mean, like I say, matchups are bad. I didn't match up well with Payne. This release, the last with everyone before this one,
Right.
I was fine.
Right.
But this release, I didn't match up well against him. You know, I don't match up well against Courtney. It just happens. But matchups make the game. You know. So and then Chef matches up well against a lot of people. He just has that kind of end of the game thing. But he matches up very well against people
Yeah.
a lot. And if he could pull that together,
Nah, but he's a bum.
you know, he'd be much better. And I don't think I can state enough that
Right.
Chef ain't just
Right.
that bad. You know, when we look at the things he
Yep.
does and how he
Yep.
does, he's not that bad. He's kind of brought himself up out of that worst guy in the league, you know, repertoire that he was kind of saddled
He
with.
wins games. And he wins games against quality
And
opponents.
you got to beat these people, you know.
Yeah.
But with that being said, with the logic and the way the system set up, I mean, nobody should go on 16 twice, and nobody truly should have the worst record twice because you
Yeah.
play different opponents, different seasons. So you're gonna get some matchups you should win, and there's just really no way anybody should get booted.
But nobody would get booted by that logic, right? Because also if you think about it, the odds of getting booted, what are really the odds of someone having the worst record in the league 2 seasons in a row?
Like I find it impossible, you know. And to this point, I think what happens is this rule
Right.
is gonna help people not tank.
Yep.
You know, people who at the end, well, let's say a guy bums, like, I'm gonna keep my first and I'm just gonna tank. Like Alton kept his first to
Yeah.
get that cornerback last year and tanked. And I don't know if he tanked or if he just bad enough, but he kept that first to get that cornerback. Everybody wanted the 6'4", 96
Yeah.
cornerback, but he got it. And so this would
It's a toss-up,
prevent
right?
some of that, I think, because it's definitely, you know, something that you don't want to have people holding picks and tanking for the sake of.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, chances are if you won 2 games the year before, you'll probably win at least 3 or 4 the next season. Somebody else might only win 2 this season. So you won't be the low man on the totem pole 2 years in a row. I mean, I think we talk about it, or we talked about it in a previous podcast, but I don't think anybody's going to get booted based on the existing rule structure. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense, and I think for the health of the league, because we have a solid group of people who you don't have to worry about chasing. Like, you don't have to go chase anybody for a game. Everybody that's in here is pretty much going to want to go and play their game.
Yeah.
Right, so there's no real, you know, ifs, ands, or buts about availability and commitment. I think everybody here is pretty much committed to actually getting through the release,
Yeah.
the whole release per se, you know? I mean, Fats might be the one that's like the most not interested sometimes, but I mean, he'll play. You hit him up, he'll play. Ain't no big deal. Me, on the other hand, like, I
Right.
like
Right.
trading and stuff. You know what I mean? So, you know, my game is terrible. In fact, I am pretty terrible because I don't put that much into the game.
But see, that's what you like. That's what you like. But does that make you? Do you think that makes you a worse Madden player because you are really more about entertaining yourself and making deals as opposed to getting better at the game?
It absolutely makes me terrible. There is no doubt that I am horrible because I have more fun doing the non-essential game stuff, you know. But that's when we talk about the ability to, you know, to find your happiness with what you
Yeah.
want to do. Like, I'm only concerned about, you know, entertaining myself because, like, mentally, you know, I have a mindset
Yep.
and I don't change it, and that's just kind of me.
Too far behind the 8 ball, don't you think?
It is I am far behind the 8 ball, but I mean that's when you have to look at the definition of our league, no life. And so when we look at what we mean by no
Okay.
life, you know, we need to kind of define it so we can get it. So I went to Urban Dictionary and there were several different, you know, descriptions, but no life is a verb used to describe the utter commitment to an activity performed by someone until the activity is completed.
I bet.
Right, completed, has nothing going on in their life besides that activity at that time. So when we look at this, who really embodies what no life is. Like, who in this league can truly say they have no life and that they are a no life boy? That's a great question.
Yeah.
So who can that be in this league?
Technically nobody. Because if our commish technically really has no life. But he says he's not gonna sit around the house all day. He's not gonna focus on this. He's got a full life. You know, you got family obligations, you got extracurricular activities, you got other things. So if the most available person we have in the league has other commitments, then that pretty much negates that logic for anybody in the league, right?
This is very true. I don't agree.
So nobody fits it.
So next to Cal, what member do you think we can embody that, in turn is close, like Cal is, to actually exhibiting the definition that we found for actually having no life and being completely enthralled in this video game? Like, who would you name?
Oh, that would be Nav.
That's a pretty solid answer.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't argue with that one either.
That would be Nav. I know you're thinking about somebody else, but I'm telling you that's Nav. I mean, anybody that tells you that I have labbed every possible play scenario, I have kept up with every possible bit of news about the release, everything that comes up. I'm doing different formations on defense and offense, every possible play combination, route combination. I've mastered it. I've done it. That's pretty damn close to no life. So who's your guy?
My guy was going to be Chop, but I mean, for the same reason you listed for Nav, you know what I mean? I mean, that's really the reason.
Yeah, but he's flaking out though.
I say this because during that streak, and people have named this, right? The dude was practicing the lapping every single play, every single route combination, every single this, every in and out, all of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The boy's defense is off the chain. He makes the quickest defensive adjustments of anybody on the game in general. So for the reasons you picked Nav,
right?
Those are the reasons I would go with Armani. Hell, back when I labbed, he was labbing. I mean, shit, I had a little pride here and there. You know what I'm saying? I get on there and try to do something with myself.
Yeah.
But
right.
I mean, I had a little pride and whatnot, so it worked out.
But how do you know it was him though?
I mean, shit, who else is gonna be in goddamn practice mode that much and not doing shit?
It could have been. I mean, every time I play our money, it sounds like 8 people in the room. So it might be somebody else playing. It might be a brother, cousin, homeboy, sister. I don't know. But if it is him, it's possible. Because I heard during that streak, that 60-something game streak when he ran the league, they said he was still getting on labbing then. So you might be right. The problem is we don't actually have any data to confirm that was him. You get what I'm saying?
Well, all I can say is on my breaks, it'd be 2, 3 in the morning, which he an hour ahead of me.
Okay.
And this young man would be in practice mode, in franchise, not running games, not in and then the thing though, he would be in like the party chat with somebody too. So it was motherfuckers up with him. So I mean, that's what I would embody no life. And I think at one point he was there. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Now we know they both labbed like that, and when they labbed together, Nav's game picked up.
And I guess you can kind of make that inferential leap because you can say that Nav's game incrementally improved when he began labbing with our money, right? And if those two cats together combined really are the closest definition of no life behind Cal, then it makes sense that they will both be as good as they are, right?
I mean, it makes complete sense. So that's the goal to say that if you want to be completely dominant, then it does take an effort outside of normal gameplay to be completely and totally dominant.
More power to
so
him.
You can't really argue with the fact
Right.
that a little effort put in does go a long way.
Exactly.
And when you put a lot of effort in, it goes a long way as well. Because it takes a lot of effort to be able to have 400 plays broken down into what to work against every single call of defense. It takes a lot of effort to scout somebody and to take your game plan and place it toward it. It takes a lot of effort to know that when you see a formation on Madden, that if you take this dude purple or blue, that he'll cover all of this, because, I mean, it's a video game. So it goes to say that when you add that together with actual good stick skill, then you become a very good player. Because, see, a football guy that has no Madden skills will suck at Madden. And a non-football guy that has Madden skills will be great at Madden. And if you have any kind of football knowledge and you can play video games, then you're going to be a great Madden player. Reed has a little football knowledge, and he's a good video game player. He's a great Madden player. Earl has decent skill sets, and he has football knowledge. He's a good Madden player. I have no skill at all on Madden, but I know football.
Oh, I agree with you. I think because we're speaking logically, right? So if you think about it, time and effort equals results. That's really what it comes down to. So I remember, everybody talks about how I had the good release, last release. Well, what happened is people don't remember this, but Vince actually put together this little thing, and he called me out, and I happened to be on vacation. To your point, I happened to be on vacation. I was at home. So then I put in time to try to figure out what I could do differently, looking at rosters, looking at different stuff, and it improved my performance, and I just kind of carried it over. I didn't do much more when I went back to work, but that time I was on vacation, I played 3 or 4 games, and it was kind of on from that point. Now, this entire release, I had other commitments, extracurricular commitments than usual, kids' older activities, school, work, etc. That didn't give me the time and focus. So I think that if you have the time and you have the focus, you can't help but get better. So in Cal's thing, like Cal has noticeably improved. I think he's noticeably improved, and he won a ring for the first time. So he could actually get that much better, given that now he understands what it takes to get to that level. So what if he did take away the mud? What if he did take away the extracurricular stuff and he focused purely on his Madden game? He might be the best player on the game.
So because he's the most closely resembled definition we have of no life, and then we know that Armani, Chop and Nav are pretty close to being that definition. Really, when we look at the time they put in no life wise,
Yeah.
is it safe to say that in a way Cal is kind of underachieved, because if he's on the same level almost of time frame that they have, but is not getting the same exact results as far as domination in the game, he's kind of underachieved. That's just kind of how I look at it. Now, if we look at the other aspect of it, who truly schedule wise does not have the ability to put in the work?
Physically cannot? You mean like they just don't have the time to do it?
Exactly, as in they just really don't have it.
Man, that's tough, because I want to say it's the people that's not in the league no more.
That's a good answer.
Block is super hard to schedule with, and he's got all kind of stuff going on or whatever. I think the league is a low priority. I think it's kind of fun for him, but I think he could put the time to it, but in his mind, he doesn't have the time, so he just don't play. And when he does play, he plays poorly, right? Same thing could be said for Ricky. Ricky, I think he gets in there and he figures out something that works. If it works, he throws. He had the receiver, he started chunking the ball to him. Yep. But I think he has the time, but I don't think he wants to give the time he had to the game. You know what I mean? If you're talking about active players, is that what we're kind of going towards, the active players?
Yep.
Okay. Let me see. Active players.
Yep.
I'm gonna say Chef. Chef has the time, but Chef really does play like way too many games. He has too much stuff going on. He
time management.
When he gets on, he's playing, all kinds of things. I think the takeaway from it, he plays, Mario Kart, Code, whatever. I don't even know all the games he plays on PlayStation, but I think that if Chef focused on one game for one release, he might move to mid-major status.
I'm gonna kind of agree with you, because he doesn't manage his time correctly. Because if you want to play from 6 to 9 in the morning when he's off, he'll play you. But he doesn't use that time either to better his Madden game. Like you said, he plays other stuff. So I think he has the ability to be much better if he really wanted to.
Yeah.
I think he really could be a much better guy.
But hold on, though. Manoj can multitask like a mug, though. He's got like kids in his lap playing. You know what I'm saying? He's figured out how to master that thing. So when you say he doesn't have the time, he plays when time permits, though, because he also plays late, after work, after kids are off.
And that's why Manoj would be my guy, because he just don't. I mean, he's figured out how to make it work for him, but that doesn't negate the fact that dude like works late, works a lot, works all day. He got like 17,000 kids. So with that being said, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. His time is pretty valuable. Without him, Damon might not be around, and that might actually be a good thing. But that's beside the point. The point is, I believe that his time schedule is the most concentrated, and he still finds a way to play his games. But like I said, he's run that same defense. He'll say it for Madden after Madden after Madden. I think if he had time to actually change it up, he would. If he really had the time to look at streams, he would. If he really could change it, he would.
Yeah.
I see him and Chef as totally different.
So he's already what, top 7?
I think it's 8. Well, let me look here on this. Yeah, it's top 7.
And I think he's top 7.
Yep, top 7. That's what he is.
So he's top 7. So you're saying that if he had more time, he would be elite?
I think that's exactly what I'm saying. I'm
Okay.
saying that, if he had the same time amount as a lot of people in this league, and he had the ability to use that time
Yeah.
to differentiate his game, I believe Manoj would probably be a good top 5, top 4 guy. Now, I am aware that sounds crazy and that laughter is justified, because sometimes kind of crazy, wild opinions get those reactions. But it's just, a person, how they think, how they act, and I don't know them like that, but I have a good feel for them, and I think that's possible.
Well, let me ask you a question. So since you went crazy on me there, let me ask you a question. What if you, Derek, and Earl stop talking about real life football and start focusing on Madden? What would happen?
Well, see, I can only speak for myself in that frame, and there's no doubt that if I stop the whole real life football and Madden should be doing this way, I would be a much better player. But like I say, there's no doubt that in a game sometimes when something don't happen the way you want it to happen, sometimes you be like, you know what, I'm going to get in this quarter on this 3rd and 1, and you do it because you know that'll work. And Madden, you do it sometimes, but you try. But
you're gonna do it again
all the time. But but I can only speak for myself, and I'll say that if I really did act like I knew what the hell was going on and did the things that you can do to win the games, I probably would be a lot better, but I don't.
Okay. So it's kind of one of the things where you don't want video game to mess up your real life.
And I know some people don't understand, but I get paid to think a certain way, and I don't.
Right.
I just do, and so my mindset is my mindset. I can't change how I'm supposed to do stuff.
Okay. Well. Let's just say, okay, I don't think that's the case for Earl or Derek. I really don't. But maybe it is. But let's just say, still, I'm gonna keep all 3 of y'all. Isn't it a whole lot like trying to put that round peg in that square hole, though? You know it ain't gonna fit.
And see, that's where that whole stubbornness comes in at. Because, like I say, Los terms, right? Anything to win. And sometimes, like mindset wise, you don't if you're not.
But that's what you do
with it. You don't think like anything to win. Sometimes you think I want to win the way I want to win.
But it still don't knock you out to 32.
And that's the thing. Like if it did knock me out of 32, then I would have something to complain about. But it don't. So I'm not worried about it. Now there's been plenty of chances for people to do better, and they haven't, or they can't stick and abide by the rules, or they can't do what need to be done to ensure their place in there. But that shouldn't be a knock on dudes who doing it the way they want to do it, play the game they want to play it. Like I say, the process will be the process, and if a dude cannot abide by the codes or the rules of the league, then the process will eliminate them. And if you can't, up here and be competitive enough to sustain, even with a point system and a fail-safe with a continued win system, then it's not your fault that nobody has come along and been better and and good enough to
I agree with
get you removed from the league. That's just my thought process. Now, I could be completely wrong. I could be looking at it the completely wrong way, which is possible because I'm not perfect. But if I'm having fun, and what I do is able to allow me to stay around within the structure that we have assembled and we've all agreed upon, and hell, the shit kind of I invented anyway to begin with, then there's nothing really wrong with me doing what I do. Now, if it comes to a point where that gets me out and that gets me away from the league, then that's just what happens. It'll be all right. I'll live because my life-work balance is pretty decent, so I'll be okay. Don't get it messed up, but there are instances where you expect things to happen, they don't. But like I say, playing the game and your safety, 190 pounds ain't finna block shit 3 linemen to go make a tackle. But sometimes you put yourself in that position because
it's just like your defensive lineman is not gonna break off the line and cover your 99 speed wide receiver and get a pick. But it happens in Madden. You know what I'm saying? So
I don't think anybody that does the whole football knowledge compared to gameplay is asinine enough to truly continue to run the same wrong things that don't work over and over. But it habits form, and you got to do something like 25 times differently before it changes that habit. Right. And it's one of those things where if you don't do it all the time, it don't happen. So, like, if you don't necessarily see something the way it should be happening and you don't change it every single time, you're going to end up being slow to the curve and doing it differently. Like, nobody in their mind sees anybody dive 30 yards to make a tackle in a game, It don't happen.
So does real life strategy work in Madden?
Truthfully, offensively, Madden stuff it mimics real life pretty well because you do have to mix it up. You can't run the same shit over and over all the time because defensively wise, though, on Madden, you can literally run the same defense all game long and be successful. You can't run the same offense on Madden. So it mimics offensively.
You do have to. But if you want to run ball control,
I mean, and that's true, but I mean, it's weird, you know?
you could. And you know what? And the crazy part about it is you can stop the run sometimes more effectively in quarters than you could in the 4-3.
And see, and therein lies one of my fatal flaws because I run the 3-4, so I'm always trying to experiment with 3-4 and do things I do like in real life. So I mean, it's one of those things I'm gonna have to get over eventually. But until then, I'm just gonna kind of keep doing it until it costs me. Now, if he get me close to the edge, then I'm probably gonna switch it up so that I can maintain. But no big deal. All right, so now we're going to try to switch gears here and kind of look at a definition I pulled up for opportunity cost so we can kind of get a good idea and example of exactly about kind of one of the messages we wanted to get across when we did the Smart Guy podcast.
Right.
And it's all about division alignment, making the right choices. So let me go ahead and pull this definition up for opportunity cost. I'm going to read it to you, and then we're going to kind of give you an example, kind of break it down. My thought process, and then Deacon will chime in. But opportunity cost is the cost of choosing one course of action over another and letting your second best option pass. Economists tend to measure opportunity cost in terms of monetariness for simplicity's sake. However, value isn't always monetary. So in this case, we'll talk about value being point value. That's the value of it. And so for the sake of, I'm going to give you kind of an example of what we mean by the monetary value, or the actual value of the situation that we can kind of understand.
Wait, before you give your example, this is Smart Guy podcast, but let's make sure that it's understandable for everybody because that definition was still kind of long. So let's just give a real simple opportunity cost is simply what are you giving up and what are you getting in return? That's really what it is. What am I giving up? What am I getting in return? All right, so go ahead with the division.
All right, good. So if you are to get in the division with three guys who are, say, 10, like 30, 20 and below, then what you're doing is you're gaining wins, right? You should be gaining wins, but what you're giving up are those points you can accumulate to make yourself or your rating higher. Sure, you can get playoff points and whatnot. We'll go into that later. But what you're giving up is the ability to be higher on the standards of points in turn for wins. So the opportunity you're giving up is to place yourself in a higher level on the list, but what you're gaining is the ability for you to go ahead and secure an easy divisional win. Now you're giving up the ability to play tougher competition, which would in turn make you more metal tested for the playoffs. But what you get in return is not having to really worry about being in the playoffs. So there's pros and cons, and what opportunity cost is, you have to make a decision based upon your needs and what you feel is necessary for you, to get the most benefit of it. If your thing is you're worried about getting in the playoffs, then you might pick a weak division. If you're not worried about the playoffs, you might pick a stronger division because you want to be higher on that list. Like if you're a competitor, you don't necessarily, getting in is cool. But if you're a competitor, you might want to be number one. You're not interested with maybe being number 7 or 8. You want to be number one on the list. So guys in that position don't give up that opportunity to be better as far as points are concerned.
I agree with that.
So, I mean, that's kind of the gist of the example of opportunity cost that I look at, and what I think should come into the play as far as us making decisions and people actually going through and making their selections for their teams when it comes to team selection coming up here in about a month or so.
So here's the thing. I think the argument you're going to get from an elite is, because we've instituted this point system, they're going to say, well, I play all season so that I can get my points, so that I play the whole release so that I can pick the team I want where I want, or I can trade back to get the value that I think that pick is worth. Whatever it is, it's my position to do what I want with. So I think that that's fair, right? So I say, let's go back to our first point. Those first 6 people, maybe 7, you let them pick where they want, because there's 8 divisions, right? You let them pick, and what they're going to do is they're going to disperse. They're going to go, they're going to avoid each other like the plague. They're going to go to this one, that one, and there may be some rare instances where maybe one joins another elite division, but most of the time they're not. They convince themselves that's just not the way to do it. But what I think from there is everybody else, let's say from pick 7 on or from pick 8 on through 32, we should start looking at it more strategically. We should look at matchups. Where are the matchup problems at? Because the issue is the elites will say, well, there's not enough competition, or there's too many bums, or we need to get better players in. And that's really just not the truth. So if you think about it, I'm gonna give you some examples, and we're providing the spreadsheet for them to look at, right? Um, but let's look at, for example, Reed and Earl. Reed beat Earl 14 times. Um, it's just no reason for you to be in his division no more. You know what I'm saying? Um, Taquan beat Swift 12 times. It just that's a bad matchup. Ain't no point being in the division no more. Taquan also beat Bo 15 times. Just ain't no reason to be in that division. You know what I'm saying? Uh, Cal lost to Darryl 5 times. He lost to Reed 5 times, 5 out of 6 games. They probably don't need to be in the same division. So look, that's an example of two elites I'm saying don't need to be in the same division. Uh, let's see. Dave lost to Cal 13 times. They don't need to be in the same division. You get what I'm saying? I mean, it's kind of it's real simple. If you see that there's clearly an advantage for one player over the other, they don't need to be in the same division.
So with this being said, I mean, you need to take into account the matchup.
Right.
The strategy
right.
should come from who you can beat as opposed to who's easy to beat.
Right. Like I was in Reed's division last release. He beat the dog doodle out of me. He also did that to Manoj. Now at the same time, me and Manoj were winning 10, 11 games. So that means we not trash. He's just that much better. So we don't need to be in his. So far we've eliminated several players that don't need to be in his division. Whoever was in his division last Madden and this Madden don't need to be in his division in 18. He needs a new crop.
Right. Now, I mean, and with that being said, we look at Earl. He don't need to be in Reed's division.
And you don't want to do that.
And Tig needs to find a way to be with Earl.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking right now. Let's see who else we got. DB. DB don't need to be in the division with Spencer. That's just Spencer beat him 11 times, man. When you have that kind of a mismatch where somebody is winning, more. Okay, I'll give you an example. I keep saying who don't need to be in the same division. You know who needs to be in the same division? People that need to be in the same division. Cliff and Manoj. They need to be in the same division. They match up well.
That is a good matchup. They are almost even.
They were 8 and 6. I mean, it's almost equal. That's a good matchup. They need to be in the same division. Those are the kind of things you want to look at when you're looking at this spreadsheet. Who gives you the better games versus who gives you no challenge whatsoever? And now, if you just want to be that guy that's just racking up points and racking up wins, and you don't want any challenge, even though all at least say they want a better challenge, then you go after that. But if you want a better challenge, you find a person that's giving you some push.
I hate to do this, but
okay.
Are we ready for Arch and Earl division? How do those numbers look?
Man, I don't want to talk about Arch and Earl, but okay,
I mean, why not? Let's just do it. Let's have this head to head. Let's put it all out there on the Madden. You know what I'm saying? Instead of going with the bicker and the back foot, let's do it for the ground, cuz.
They only played. Let me see. They only played one time.
And see, that in itself should be a great reason for them to be in the same division, so that we can get the matchup, so we can settle this head to head, so that it stays a video game thing. And you know what I'm saying? It'll create great TV.
So why not put Jordan and Earl in the same division? Because it's pretty much the same. Whether it's Jordan or Art, they all hate each other and they all about even.
So Jordan, Archie, Earl, we need to add somebody else to the division. Looking at this, looks like Damon's a good fit. I think Damon will fit well.
Let's see. Let's see who else gave them some problems. I'm gonna say Cal.
It's not a bad division, but that's definitely gonna limit playoff possibilities for two of them.
I would say Cal.
Yeah, it does look like it'll work.
I think Cal would be a better matchup.
I mean, I can't argue with that at all.
In this particular, let me just take a look at something right quick.
But I just want to see like a more competitive nature in the.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't played Earl a lot. He hasn't lost to Earl. He hasn't lost to Archie. On the flip side, let's see, what did he do with Jordan? He went 3-2 against Jordan. So Jordan will be some competition for Cal. But then again, Jordan and Archie only played Earl once, so that's not a real big sample size, and they both won. But on looking at Earl's matchup, let's see, with Earl, yeah. I mean, I think he did get a win in against Jordan. Nah. But I think that'd be a good division.
So the information we presented, it kind of gives you a path of
Yeah.
maybe people you should tier up, to help your opportunity cost. To pick people who you match up well with, who actually could help you generate some points. Or maybe you pick a upper echelon dude who you match up well with to get you a maximum amount of points, but that's not really, that much of a concern for you. You know what I'm saying? Because if you can find a guy who can get you a lot of points, who's a good player, but you match up well with them, then that's somebody you should be picking. That's more valuable than
Yeah.
picking a Beatty division that I'm in or somebody else is in. So you should make these choices, based on what's best for you and your pursuits, but in a more effective manner, not just a hindsight, this guy sucks manner, because you're end up hurting yourself in the long
Yeah.
run.
But let me ask you a question though. Now I'm thinking about it. Do we want to say do what's best for you? Do what's best for the league. Everybody talking about we want what's best for the league. We want NLB to grow. We want to be more competitive. We want to grow the brand. We want all these different things. So you shouldn't be going for the easiest way out. You shouldn't be going for the easiest win. You should be going for the most difficult path.
Well, see, I would say the most difficult path that would lend me the most points that I have good matchups with, because the ultimate goal is to get in the playoffs, and that's something we can caveat into in a minute. But the object is to get in the playoffs, because that in turn provides you the most.
But see, okay. Now I don't want to leave this topic, right? I don't want to leave this topic, but let's think about that for a second, because the way that people are really making their bank, at least when I say people, I'm talking about these elites. If they have a sorry division or a trash division, what they're doing is they're racking up points in the form of playoff points and award points. Reed has been number one. Reed got almost 1,000 of his points from playoff points, but he only won one Super Bowl.
All of this is true, because I think Los is the second closer. He about 300 points off. So I mean, that's
No. Your boy King Carmen was closer.
You're right. Carmen had 625 points, and of course his division was kind of bummy. Reed almost had 1,000.
That's still a big margin. That's a very wide margin.
That's truly too big of a margin when you really look at how
If you really look, if you were to plot this out on the chart, like Reed would be like an outlier way out here, right? Then you'd have everybody else like Carlos, Calvin, Carm, Nav. They're all probably kind of plotted together. Reed's way out here, and then you have everybody else kind of down here on the right hand side. But
really put them on like a Phillips curve when you look at
right.
all kind of monetary information. Like, supply and demand is high. Demand for Reed is high. Everybody else supply is low because he's taking all the points away.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where, I would probably be somewhere towards the axis because I'm terrible. But, those playoff points are big. And this kind of goes to say that maybe the playoff points that we get are too much.
Now, but while we talking about points real quick, I did a quick remix of this, and I looked at the average points, right? So the difference between average points and just straight up points or playoff points or anything is that we're just looking at the points you score for the seasons you played, whether it's 2 seasons, 6 seasons, 8 seasons, right? So if you were to re-rank people by average points, Nav would be number 1, not Reed.
Which makes sense to me.
Reed would be number 2, not Los. James Grant would be number 3. Carm would be number 4 instead of 5, so he'd go up 1. Los would be number 5 instead of number 2. Cal would be number 6 instead of number 3. And then Chop would be number 7.
Now, that brings about more of a historical preference of it because, you got to think about this. So
Right.
we go by elite and who's not
Right.
elite, who's good, who's bad, whatever. We go by list selection, all that stuff, right? And we did a tier system in DFW that was completely terrible and it was completely biased based on friendship. That's what it was, which is why the onset of the point system came about. But when you look at it that way, and you look at the measurables, I truly, to me, it's truly a tad bit off because I really don't know what these grants are going to do. And I think that's the most exciting part of coming into this release is what will these grants do with their own teams? You know what I mean? I'm excited to see how that's going to play out.
Well, yeah. That's part of it. But see, then, okay, again, we got to look at it objectively because Block inherited Chop's team. Bird inherited Rio's team, which was actually a pretty good team. We've had bums take over good teams and do nothing.
Bums get regular teams and mess them up.
So does that discount what the Grants accomplished because they had good teams?
It's not a discount, but it's one of those things where we're gonna need to see,
McKay was winning.
But we gonna have to see, and that's why I say it's exciting because I want to see what happens. I want to see how it holds up.
It was dumpster juice.
I want to see if there's a learning curve. I want to see if they just good. I want to see if they can suffice without Nav and Carmen's team. I just want to see, and so that's a new addition. Like new additions are good when you get that kind of addition. You know what I'm saying? Because then you can really feel like. The release, because most part of the game's about the same, but you can see.
Yeah, well, who took over Archie's team? He had a good team, too.
It was Chico, and he didn't do that bad,
He wasn't bad. He had the Chico swerve thing, but he wasn't bad.
So for the most part, when the guys took over teams, they didn't do that bad, I'm trying to think if anybody did, or Block didn't do too much of nothing, because he killed Armando's team. Bird did good with Rio's team. I'm trying to think. Oh, well, there's, Ricky and Vince,
Well, but Ricky messed up Vince's Packers.
Yeah, he didn't really maximize with that because he had a pretty good young team. The secondary was pretty straight. He had young speed because Vince is gonna do like Nav, have the young shifty receiver guys. So I guess it's pretty safe to say that was not a good job taken over by Ricky.
No, it's not.
So with that being said, everybody did decent. The Grants did decent. So like I said, I want to see them from the bottom, and see what happens.
It ain't.
I think this is gonna, breathe a little life into the league for this release.
Yeah. So let's back up. So when we talk about Grants, they had 2 and 3 seasons respectively. James had 2, and Nakima had 3, right? Or at least 2.5. I'm not sure how that ranked out, but I think it was 3. So these guys, let's say you take them out. Let's just say because their sample size is 3 seasons or less, you take them out. You would also have to take out Chop because Chop only played 3 seasons, right? So really, let's just say you take them out. You just take out James because he had 2 seasons. You leave Nakima in there. So then the ranking would be Nav, Darryl, Carm, Los, Cal, Armani, and Taquan.
And again, a very respectable.
It doesn't change a lot. It's still pretty much the same names, but just in different order.
And I fall back historically. Does that truly give us what we need as far as really being able to classify who is the best and who is not the best, or who is just good but not really elite? Because like I said, it's such a wavy area. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's so many different opinions that can be based upon it. We can give you math. We can show you who climbed where, who came from where, who approved this much. People gonna debate whether Cliff is trash, he's good or not. It's just so much, that takes place.
You can't call it that, right?
I cannot call it. All I know is that it's gonna have to be played out on the game. But there's a lot of variables that's gonna make this release a lot more exciting.
Yeah.
Aside from the fact that if we can truly get some thought process put into this team selection and these division buildings, then we could create a product that is actually marketable as opposed to some guys beating up on a few guys and just getting playoffs.
So let's do this then. Let's look at it another way. Because we are objective and we are fact based, right? So if you think about 2016 ranks versus 2017 rank, Darryl and Los pretty much stayed the same. They were 1 and 2, and they stayed 1 and 2. Cal actually jumped up 2. He finished 5, went to 3.
Now here comes the outlier. This is where it changes.
Here comes the outlier. Taquan goes from 40 to 4.
That's a huge jump.
That's a 36-spot jump. That's a pretty big jump. I don't think we have anything close to that anywhere on the chart.
I would be more inclined because he was at 40, but theoretically started at 32. So I'll be more inclined to call that, a small, like a 28-point jump.
Right.
Because he did start he was the 32nd team to select. So I would give him
call it that.
32. But that's still remarkable. That's still a huge leap, to 4.
Well, why don't we call it that Nakima, he went up 21 spots. He didn't finish in the final 32. He finished 21 in 3 seasons. Grant finished at what? let me see, where is he at? The other Grant, James, he finished at 25. He wasn't in the 32 at all last year. 2 seasons, he got to 25. Now let's talk about some of the people that fell off the biggest.
I see a big one. We gonna say that.
So the biggest drop is McKay, but McKay left early, right? He dropped 21 spots.
But for the most part, these drop-offs, people who left early, who didn't have enough to sustain, like
Vince.
this next one kind of big, you know what I mean?
And then the next biggest drop is somebody who left early as well.
Chop needs a bounce back
Chop.
because he got swept, by Rio, who also quit early. You know what I mean?
And Rio is right
Does
there.
that make Rio elite though? Is Rio now elite though because he sweat Chop?
No.
I mean, he dropped 19 spots, which is far much higher than anybody else who actually finished. Everybody else any higher than him actually didn't finish, which kind of makes it look kind of weird. Then you have Fats. Fats, he didn't necessarily fall off the face of the earth per se, but he had a pretty solid drop. But again, he performs better when his team is involved.
Fats.
But back to Bryant. I mean, nobody who finished the release fell as much as he did.
That's a huge drop.
21 points. You dropped 21 slots. That's crazy. That's crazy. So does that mean that your release before you just overachieved and you just fell back to earth? I mean, now we have to wait and see.
That's just a fact. That's a fact. But the other thing that I think is kind of interesting when you think about year-over-year trends, everybody keeps talking about Dave fell off. He only dropped 1 spot.
Man went from 8 to 9. 8 to 9. Got a kidney transplant. Was out of work a while.
Right.
Had a lot going on in his life. Went from 8 to 9. So that's not a fall off. See, numbers help you. He might not be the same day, but 8 to 9 is not a huge drop off. So I think sometimes our opinions and our emotions get in the way instead of looking at numbers. Sure, he's not the same guy, but when you go from 8 to 9, you ain't dropped off.
I mean, that's just amazing. That's just amazing.
Hell, I personally think it showed a lot of character because I'm sure this game kind of maybe kept his head up a lot. And if you only drop 1 spot through all of that, but you're a damn hero to me. I think you did a wonderful job.
He did it. He worked it, man. He worked it. So let's talk about some of these other people that I think were pretty good moves up, right? For Earl to be saying he can't differentiate, he moved up 16 spots, from 13. That's a lot. Swift moved up 15 spots. Pat and Ivan moved up 12 spots. Nav moved up 14 spots and left early. Minaj, I like to say Minoj, but Minaj moved up 13 spots. So if you say, going back to your theory, he could be elite next release, right?
Yeah, I see.
I mean, we have some interesting things. We could go over these stats all day. So many different ways to look at this. But ultimately, I want to get back to this point where we're talking about scheduling and positioning. I just really think we should pay more attention to where there is no competition and try to eliminate those pockets. I'm just looking at, again, Tig is a great example. Tig dropped 6 spots. He went from 25 to 31, so he's in the lower tier. But at the same time, he dominated a guy like Earl, who is a mid-tier player, pretty good. He beat him 12 times this release. That's just not a good matchup for Earl. You get what I'm saying?
So no matter the team, Tig should be following Earl.
He would be silly not to follow Earl, but Earl would be silly to play in the division with Tig.
So seeing as Tig picks after Earl, if there's an open team in that division, then there should be no reason why that should not be one of his choices because he knows that he has a competitive matchup advantage over Earl. And the matchup advantage supersedes a team that got some fast guys on it any day of the week because that's something you can work with.
Yeah. Yeah, like nobody in Los's division should be in Los division again. Smith, he beat him 15 times. Courtney, he beat him 15 times. Pat, he beat him 11 times. Why do you want to do that? That's just don't do it.
But Smith say he gonna follow.
But that's just a bad look. Why do that? And Smith, it really don't make sense because Smith lost to him 15 times and he lost to Pat 14 times. Why would you put yourself back in that predicament?
See, Smith should be smart. He should follow Courtney because he has a competitive advantage over Courtney. He has 6 more wins over
Right.
Courtney. Courtney has over him. You know, he should follow Courtney. Don't go smelling somebody cologne or having somebody smell your cologne or whatever you say. Don't follow Pat because Pat's good to talk shit with and he makes pictures and memes or whatnot. Follow Courtney. You know what I'm saying? Get in the division with Courtney. Follow Payne. You're a pretty good matchup with Payne. Y'all play the same way, so y'all gonna throw each other the ball. Like, it's a good stat game for you for some XP.
Right.
But be smart about it. You know what I mean? Don't just follow somebody for the sake of, like DB said, he gonna follow Nav around. Why would you do that?
Yep.
He dominated you. Find a better route. Find somebody you have a good matchup with who can gain you some points. Don't just pick somebody and say I'm gonna follow him because it sounds cool and everybody else is doing it.
Ain't nobody he's played that great. I mean, Payne, Fats, DB.
Another good division. Payne's Fats, DB Smith, Courtney, something like that. But you know, the divisions need to be made that cause friction. You know what I mean? Friction.
But you got to be careful with that. I mean, you got to kind of marry that idea of following Courtney with also looking at the other 2 people that would be in that division potentially. Because if one of them people is Los or Pat, you don't want to go there because the wins you're going to get from Courtney are going to be offset by the losses you're going to get from one of those 2.
I mean, but I would hope that wouldn't be his only filter as far as picking the team. He would probably fall back to his second filter, which is wherever he derives. But it should play a part in his decision, is what I'm saying. It should always play a part. Who you match up well with and can gain you points, not just a bum.
Then okay, I can see that.
And then like DB is like I can't fathom. I can't really put together a division that would benefit him. So he kind of swimming. You know what I mean?
I don't know, but he don't need to follow nobody.
All I know is the boys say he gonna follow Nav.
He wouldn't say that, would he?
Say he gonna follow Nav. He gonna make his life a miserable hell. Gonna make photoshops. But that matchup doesn't bode well for him. Especially if Carmen really does get crazy and pull up on Nav and they in the same division, which would be, something to see. But so DeMarcus basically eliminates himself from the playoffs at that point. You know what I mean? So he got to be smart. You got to be smart because Carmen gonna trade back and pick late, and it's a team open. He might feel froggy. He might jump in that division. So he's gonna have to be smart. Like DB, this is really like a make or break situation for you. Because now, Keith, I'm pretty sure you're familiar with this, but I'm gonna just give him a little principle called Occam's razors. Some that kind of follow me through life, but put a little graphic up. But basically, the way Occam's razor works is it's a principle established by a guy named William Occam. Long definition tells you about principles of heresy and applications of principles, all that good stuff. But the basics of it comes down to the simple fact that most of the time, the simplest solution to a problem is the solution to the problem. Sometimes we overthink stuff and we do more than we need to do to be able to accomplish the purpose of what we were trying to do. So with that being said, hey guys, keep it simple. Keep it simple.
Most of the time.
Use the tools and keep it simple. Don't overwork your head.
Well, you end up putting yourself in a bad situation when you overcomplicate it. That's really what he's saying. Yeah.
I mean, we all have instincts. And sometimes it's good to use those instincts. Like, I tell kids all the time, when you don't know the answer to a question, the first thing that pops out to you that makes the most sense might be it if you don't know.
Right.
Because we don't always know everything. So if you don't know, then you take an educated guess. And sometimes the educated guess is that first thing that looks right to you. So if the pick of the team looks right to you and you got a good feeling about the other people's division, take it. Don't sit there and think about who's in what and who's going to trade who's got the speed. Just pick the thing that works out best in that thing, man. And I know I've gotten kind of long-winded about these things, but I want to maximize this release. Like we've done it a couple ways. It's only gotten better within NLB. It's only gotten better. We haven't really taken any back steps.
Yeah.
It's continued to grow. We get new people all the time. We get new followers. Groups big. Everybody want to join. We've changed our process to get more people in. We haven't lost the core people at all. We've lost some outliers. But with that being said, man, we need to take a step, and that step would be to create just this product of a group that sets a standard, right? Because CFM is becoming less and less important to EA. It seems like they're more on mud and drafting, stuff like that. And when you look at the new changes that came about, the only thing CFM got was a draft board that had a little bit of code to it. Nothing crazy.
Yep.
So we need to help move the cause forward, and by doing, creating more competitive spotlight, we can do that.
Probably not.
Man, I know it sounds like preaching, but I mean, competition is competition,
Right. Right.
and trying to get the best product out there is always
It
a
is.
great thing
It
for all
is.
that whole
I'm just
CFP
looking at
community.
I'm just looking at some of these matchups, man. It's just, and I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, man, some of these guys go to the same divisions or play the same people. I mean, Bo and Swift, that's enough. If I'm Swift, I'm going wherever Bo is. I mean, it's just, it's kind of one of the things.
And it's like knowing historical data and seeing the matchups. Why wouldn't you go wherever Bo is
He
if you're
did.
Smith? And I
He
mean,
did.
well, if you're Swift, right? Swift runs fast.
Right.
Obviously, he runs his plays. He
Right.
does his thing. He's not gonna change too much or variate from it. But if it works, it works. If it don't, it don't. He gonna hit you with it. It's gonna happen.
Yep.
Bo's gonna build his team based off what other people do. He's gonna try to build like them. So Swift definitely has the advantage as a whole in that scenario.
Yeah. I mean, but at the end of the day, I say I'm going wherever Bo is, but that's because that's his best matchup. It's still a tough game for him because I think they were 10-6 total. Um, Bo won 6, Swift won 10, but it's still a winning matchup. But if either one of them go where Taquan is, that's probably a bad idea. So it's just not, I guess at the end of the day, what we're getting at is the strategy of team selection is more than just the team. It's more than just where am I picking. It's more so of who am I going to be playing with in the division. That's not only going to give me the best chance for success, but that's going to give me the best, depending on where you are. Like if you're a bum or even a mid-major, you're probably looking at where am I going to get the most opportunity to win the most games. If you're if you're an elite, you should be thinking, where am I going to get the most competition?
I
That's what
mean, we
I
gotta
think.
look at relationships wise. So for the last two releases, I've been in division with Carmen, but I don't trade in division. But see, Carl trade with me. Like before, he trade with me. He give me good deals. It's my frat. But I hampered myself mentally because I don't trade in division. And Carmen was in my division for two releases, so that took away a lot of movement I had. It kind of messed up my flow. Messed me up.
To do what you like to do.
Exactly, because I like to trade, I like to move pieces, I like to do all stuff, and when you take away one of your biggest trade partners, it's gonna hamper you. So you got to think about
Yeah.
relationships. Like one, I was in the division for 2 years and I got my ass kicked for 2 years, so I probably shouldn't go back to Carmen's division. Just saying, probably shouldn't do that. Also, if I'm in a division and I'm in the other
Yeah.
conference away from Carmen,
Yeah,
guess
you
what?
got
I have
to.
a better chance of getting a really good deal. And he's probably going to give me a really good deal because he has and he will.
No, no. I think we got a good start. We got a lot of good conversation, a lot of good talking points. Hopefully, people got some good takeaways. Understand that this is purely a strategic and logical breakdown of things. This is not emotion based, and I think we delivered on our promise.
Right. It's not like we were trying to direct anybody in what to do. We just providing, custom examples and things that can be done to maybe help somebody move from one level to another. Give you something else to put into your repertoire, to your chest of
Right,
ideas that you can use to help select the team you want to select. We're by no means experts, but goddamn, we gave you something to look at.
right.
It was something different, and it was something that we thought could help you benefit. Up to this point, when we look at it, we look at our cast, our 32. You shouldn't have to chase anybody. Like I said before, we got Fats. If he might not be around, he might not talk on the page like he used to, but if you hit him up, he'll
Yep.
play. There's nobody to chase down. Everybody that's in here really wants to be here. Nobody had to add somebody. That we don't have space fillers because we want to have a full league. What we have are a
Yep.
group of 32 dudes who really want to play all their games. And see, sometimes that's all you can ask for
Yep.
is a willing participant. So since we have the willing participants, it's only right that we take that to the next level and have a bunch of willing
Yeah.
and strategically stout
I've never had a
participants.
problem playing facts.
And even with the institution of the rules, I don't see anybody being put out.
Only person I never had to chase is block.
Exactly. I don't see anybody being put out. I don't see anybody
Right.
having to actually leave the league. So I mean, I believe we're in a good spot. I think we covered everything we wanted to cover. Can you think anything else we need to hit? Or I think we good, man.
You literally have to be complete trash consecutive seasons.
Yeah, and it's like, and it'd be very difficult with matchups and stuff for anybody to really be that bad.
I think that's it, man.
I do as well. I'd like to thank all of y'all for tuning in to this first Smart Guys podcast. There may be a second one. If it does come, it ain't gonna be next week. It's probably gonna be maybe a month from now, maybe closer to the actual selection show, just kind of refresher session, But it ain't gonna be next week. So go ahead and look at it. We take all comments, suggestions. Hit us up. See if you want something you want to add, something you want to diagnose. Been knowing this fella here for about 10 years. I've been married about 10 years.
At least 10, yeah, about 10
so
years.
I figured, we'd be able to keep it kind of where I wanted to go and that it would work out. So this worked out pretty well. Appreciate you helping me out, brother. Again, fellas, hit us up. You got any questions, any suggestions, and we'll definitely be sure to get on it for you.